Hi. So I just was watching the rest of Jimmy Dore's videos on YouTube, because his show is like the only one I've been watching for the last year or two. Yeah, or like I don't know if it's like 2 year, basically like 2 years, like since the after the primary ended in 2020, and it was clear that you know um, that a lot of the lefties on YouTube, a lot of the blue check left, was gonna just vote for the Democrats. Um, so then I started watching Jimmy Dore more because he was one of the ones who was like who had a backbone and said, no, I'm not going to vote for them. I'm not going to vote for Biden. So, and then he had a backbone on terms of like Russiagate, or, seemingly it's hard to know what kind of backbone he really has, or if he's just like playing to a certain crowd. But like, at least he was correct on Russiagate, and he eventually, he was relatively good even from the beginning on the lockdowns and stuff like that. And then he came out against mandates and everything. So, and he even like criticized the vaccines. So, I gave him a lot of credit for that. And, he was arguably sticking his chin out doing it. But then to see him like trashing the Second Amendment and literally saying, like in a recent video, he literally said that he thinks they should take the guns, take away the guns. That's what he said. And at the very least, he seems that he wants AR-15s to be confiscated. It's always some pussy like Jimmy Dore who's like wants some cop to go and disarm men. Jimmy Dore wouldn't have the balls to disarm a fucking flea, but he wants to send the police, who he says are lunatics. He says they're all insane and they're murderers, they're killers, and that's why they become police. He wants them to disarm all the, gun owners, or at least any gun owners with AR-15s. So, that's where I draw the line. Like, fuck Jimmy Dore. Like, like I agree with him on a lot of stuff, and I'll join forces with him on those things, I guess. But he's definitely not my leader, and he's not my comrade either, because he would rather take a gun out of my hands and put it into the hands of a cop, straight up. So, fuck that guy. I mean, I don't know how he can seem populist on so many other issues when clearly he's an authoritarian who hates the masses, who hates regular people. He wants us all to be defenseless. So yeah, fuck that cunt. I mean, anybody who really wants to ban guns, because some of his statements it didn't even specify. Like usually he was saying he was against AR-15s. But in some of his statements, he just said guns generally. He's like, I don't like guns. I think there shouldn't be guns in the hands of like the citizens. We should be like all these other countries that are so much better than us. Like he was showing some map and he was saying like the US is the only country where you can have a gun without a license. And that's why we're terrible and everything. And we should be like these other countries. I think he does hate the US on a deep level. He has some like pathological fucking hatred of this country. I mean, it's not like he hates this country more than the people who own it and run it. They hate it even more, but he still seems to hate it a lot. So anyway, like, I had to unsubscribe from him, and he was like one of the last people I was still subscribed to, like had to already unsubscribe all the like pseudo lefties after like they went shit lib on like force the vote, or they went shit lib on Russiagate, or on vaccines or masks or something like that. So, you know, it was just down to like, I think I follow him, and I follow like Jackson Hinkle and like Glenn Greenwald, and I don't know, just a few people now. Like I used to follow a lot of leftist YouTubers. But, you know, so I unfollowed him, but I still wanted to just watch the rest of his videos, and which is good I did, because I saw even worse shit that he said about the gun thing. And then there was a video where he had on Nick Brana from the People's Party, and Nick and I don't know, it's like several people there were all trying to convince Jimmy Dore to run for president. Like Nick and Kurt and apparently Max Blumenthal had said it would be good, and even Ralph Nader had said it would be good. So, I mean, I think it's like he's going for Nick Brana wants Jimmy Dore largely for the name recognition. I mean, who knows? Maybe it would be a good idea if Jimmy Dore was even down to do it, which he's not, because he's a pussy. And I mean, he kind of is, I don't know, on some level, or he's a split personality or something. But he said, yeah, so he said no. He's like, you know, he's already dealing with too much stress, and so he's trying to reduce stress. It's like, okay, you're literally a public figure whose thing is to like tell off, you know, like get into the midst of it and like get, you know, tell off everybody, and, you know, basically fight political, like at least rhetorical combat or something, and be a figure of controversy. But anyway, I guess it's stressing him out, and he's like fax injured, so maybe that's exacerbating it. But anyway, like, so I think, yeah, part of it was also just that he has name recognition somewhat compared to the average person who's an actual populist. But anyway, I don't know. I would run for president. I would run. Well, I always run. I run for president every time. I run for governor every time, usually. But I've found that I don't get any support. So it's just like, you know, I'm just presenting myself like, oh, if you guys ever one day want somebody who's not going to stab you in the back, I'm here. But they don't. So they keep getting like what they get. You know, like I ran for governor, and, you know, I was collecting all the signatures for it, and so many people just would be like, they would just laugh at me. They'd just be like, nobody knows who you are. That's all they think. That's all they care about, their own government. They just care that it's like a celebrity contest or something. They don't even care if like what the issues are. A lot of people. So yeah, I mean, they get what they deserve, but not the rest of us. Anyways, so yeah, like I'd be happy to run as People's Party, but only if I could try to make an alliance with the Libertarians and the Greens. Because honestly, I mean, yeah, the People's Party is like a mix. It's not necessarily better than the Greens. And it seems like the same people who had fucked up the Greens, like basically SJW shit libs, have been trying to fuck up People's Party. And Libertarian parties, not, you know, it's deeply flawed too. They ran that Gary Johnson cuck in like 2016. But that's what we need. We need like if somebody's gonna run third party and be like, oh, I'm only for the leftists or something. And I think that's the, you know, Nick Brana is coming from it as a centrist, or, you know, he says it's not about left and right or something like that. So partly that might indicate he doesn't understand what leftism actually is, but at least it might mean he's open to not being, a typical shitlib SJW, which, he showed on partly just by being friends with Jimmy Dore, but certainly with promoting the trucker protest against the mandates. But it would be a tragedy if he didn't, if they tried to run without reaching out to the Greens and the Libertarians. Because there's no point of having like 10 third parties that are all just going to take like 0.1% of the vote. The masses need to unite. That's all we have on our side besides truth and justice. They have all the money, they have all the power. We just have the numbers. And if we can't marshal our numbers, if we can't unite, if we're just going to be divided into all these million different little parties, then we have nothing. So anyway, that's what I always propose every year. I always propose a fusion ticket, a Libertarian Green fusion ticket. So maybe this time it would be like Libertarian Green People's Party fusion ticket. And that's kind of like what the Greens did last time, at least in the sense that the Green ticket was a fusion of like a few different parties, like socialist parties and stuff, that combined their candidates, that basically endorsed the Green candidates, Howie and Angela. But the Green Party totally disgraced itself by endorsing vaccine mandates, and also they basically had already disgraced themselves by kicking out and blacklisting the I think it was Kentucky Georgia, the Georgia branch, which was against the kind of extremes of trans activism, or this supposed pseudo trans rights activism, which just targets like everybody and divides the left and divides everybody. They made a statement against them, so they were like blacklisted from the party. And now the Black Caucus of the Green Party made a statement dissenting from the national structure, because the Black Caucus is anti-mandate and the National Green Party is pro-mandate, just like the Green Party in all these other countries, which are actually, a lot of these Green parties are leading these mandates, or at least very much part of establishing these type of mandates. So yeah, that's what we need. So, I mean, there's every chance it'll just be like every other time when I say this, and nothing will come of it. But unless something does come of it, or unless we do take a route like that, then it's just gonna, keep going downhill. Like, I mean, not to say, there's a lot of arguments to say, well, if anybody that wasn't controlled actually got elected, like, first of all, they wouldn't let them get elected. They'd use every means to rig it. And then if they did get elected, they'd just shoot them, or they'd just do something to like push them out. That's very possible, but it's not like necessarily certain. And, I would say, like, if I run, I'll definitely be careful, and I'm not trying to get assassinated and shit. And we should definitely be very careful to expose if they do rig it. But even that's like a propaganda coup for us, because it's exposing how they are. And the cat is like wigging out whenever he wow. In or out. Anyway. don't live with animals. It's a bad idea. I live with this cat just because he came with the room. But do not know what idiot thought it was a good idea for animals to live with people. This house is just covered with shit, and like there's just always animals like barking and meowing at everybody. Whatever, but that's aside. As president, I won't ban pets. I just think that it would be easy for all the millions of people around the world who have toxoplasmosis from cats. You know, they could have just got a different hobby and now they wouldn't have a toxin in their body for life. But anyway, that's another discussion. So whatever. I'm just sick of Jimmy Dore and let's see. No. This cat is so yeah, like the gun issue, it's just fundamental. It's fundamental. If somebody tells you that they don't think you should be allowed to defend yourself, that, you know, even though they know full well that police have every kind of gun imaginable, and the army has every kind of gun imaginable, and the FBI, CIA, NSA, and people's private security of every rich person has every gun imaginable, but they don't want you to have it. They're your enemy. They're your enemy as much as somebody who's coming at you with a knife. So, fuck Jimmy Dore. I had to say it. I mean, he might have been useful in some way just because he was like the only lefty YouTuber that like was at all honest about COVID or about Russiagate or about like the squad or whatever, stuff like that. But this is a deal breaker. And, you know, and he's flawed in a lot of ways, honestly, but this is maybe emblematic, but certainly this is a deal breaker for me. Like, I had to unsubscribe from him. Like, even his own people, like, on his show that are always on it, like, he had Kurt and Jackson Hinkle, and they both were trying to, like, at least temper the you know, crazed statements of Jimmy about guns. Like, they were saying, oh yeah, but you know, like basically it sounded like they are more supportive of gun rights compared to Jimmy. Like Kurt was saying, like, well, actually this, you know, thing that happened in Texas with the school is a great advertisement for guns, because if the cops can't defend you and won't defend you, then what else do you have? Jimmy's like, and then Jackson Hinkle, he was saying, like, you know, that he basically supports the Second Amendment because if they start taking away your rights, they're just going to keep taking. And Jimmy goes, well, yeah, I mean, I know the whole argument. I understand the argument. And he gets all like bitchy about this shit. Like, he starts wigging out. And so then they are like kind of just like staying out of it. Funny how pussies are the biggest like belligerent cunts. You know, like, but he's saying like, oh yeah, I used to believe differently because after Waco, I thought, you know, like, people want to have guns because otherwise, like, the government might kill them. And he's like, I understand that, okay? I understand that. But I take the opposite view. It's like, that's 1,000 times worse, the fact that you do understand it, supposedly, and you still take the opposite view. Evil. So, you know, hope he, like, I mean, I don't care. I guess hopefully he catches himself on and like wakes up and or repents his fucking. I mean, he probably knows what he's doing. He probably knows he's cucking for like his few remaining shitlib friends or whatever, or some like confused semi SJW shitlibs that still follow him or something. But it seems like most of his audience, like, I almost saw no supportive comments. Almost every comment I saw was just saying like, no, we need, like, people need to, you know, have guns and they need the right to bear arms. So yeah, it's like his two guests who are like his closest people and his own audience disagree with him, but he has to stick to this point. And it, you know, fuck him. I mean, it's like, do you think he would actually do it himself? No. He's like, guns, oh, guns, guns are bad. And, you know, guns, like, oh, he was telling, like, Jackson Hinkle, like, should never introduce guns to a situation. Like, you know, he's saying, like, well, if you're going to be doing traffic stops and you're doing wellness checks on people that are, like, psychologically flipping out, you shouldn't bring a gun. Because why do you need a gun? Guns always make everything worse. But like, meanwhile, Jackson Hinkle had just told him how, like, a lot of times when cops pull people over, the people that are trying to pull over shoot at them. So, you know, it's like, I mean, I appreciate that he's supposedly anti-cop, but he's not really. He's really pro-cop, because at the end of the day, it's the cops who will enforce, you know, gun control. And like, you know, like I don't like cops, but I wouldn't disarm them. I mean, I'd put a lot of them in jail probably, but if they're out of jail, I wouldn't disarm them. You know, I think everybody should be able to carry arms. You know, like, if freedom is supposed to be the whole fucking point of this country. Like, there's whole other, like, millions of miles